In the span of a single human lifetime, one man and his descendants would conquer more territory than the Roman Empire accumulated in 4 centuries. From the windswept steppes of Mongolia, horsemen would thunder across Asia and Europe, creating the largest contiguous land empire the world has ever known. This is the story of the Mongol Empire, a tale of brutal conquest, unprecedented cultural exchange, and a legacy that still shapes our world today. The year is 1162. On the banks of the Onon River in northeastern Mongolia, a child is born clutching a blood clot in his fist, an omen, the shamans say, that he will become a great warrior. His father, Yesugei, a minor chieftain of the Borjigin clan, names him Temujin. But fate has harsh lessons for young Temujin. At age 9, his father is poisoned by rival Tatars. His clan abandons his family, leaving them to starve on the harsh steppes. His mother, Hoelun, keeps them alive through sheer determination, gathering wild plants, hunting small game, fishing in frozen streams. Temujin learns early that the steppe respects only strength. When his half-brother Bekhta steals food from the family, Temujin and his brother Kasar kill him. It is a brutal act, but one that establishes a pattern. Survival above all. Loyalty to blood above custom. Temujin's early years are marked by humiliation and hardship. Rival clans capture him, placing him in a wooden collar as a slave. But even in bondage, his charisma and cunning shine through. He escapes with help from a sympathetic guard, learning valuable lessons about loyalty and the power of winning allies. As a young man, Temujin begins to gather followers. Unlike other steppe leaders who rule through lineage alone, Temujin promotes based on merit and loyalty. He creates a new kind of tribe, one bound not by blood, but by sworn brotherhood and shared ambition. His wife Berta is kidnapped by the Möngkes, a rival tribe. Temujin's response is swift and merciless. With the help of his childhood friend Jamuka and his father's blood brother Togrul, he raids the Möngkes, rescues Berta, and slaughters his enemies. The attack establishes Temujin as a rising power on the steppes. For the next 2 decades, Temujin wages a campaign of unification unlike anything the Mongols have seen. The steppe tribes have always been fragmented, fighting each other in endless cycles of revenge and raiding. Temujin offers something different: unity under one banner. His methods are sophisticated. He breaks down old tribal structures, reorganizing his army into decimal units, groups of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000. Warriors from different tribes are mixed together, their loyalty to their new units replacing their old clan allegiances. It is social engineering on a massive scale. One by one, the tribes fall. The Tatars, who poisoned his father, are nearly exterminated. The Möngkes, who kidnapped his wife, are crushed. Even his childhood friend Jamuka, who becomes his rival, is eventually defeated and executed, though Temujin offers him one final honor: death without spilling his blood. In 1206, at a great gathering called a Kurultai on the banks of the Onon River, the tribes acknowledge Temujin as their supreme leader. They give him a new title, Genghis Khan, often spelled Genghis Khan in the West, meaning universal ruler. At age 44, Genghis Khan has unified the Mongol tribes. But unification is just the beginning. He now turns his eyes beyond the steppes to the wealthy civilizations that surround his nascent empire. Genghis Khan's first major target is the Western Xia dynasty, in what is now northwestern China. This campaign, beginning in 1209, serves as a testing ground for Mongol tactics against settled civilizations with fortified cities. The Mongols are steppe warriors, masters of mounted archery and fluid cavalry tactics. Siegecraft is not their strength, but Genghis learns quickly, incorporating Chinese engineers and siege weapons into his army. When Western Xia submits, Genghis gains not just territory, but knowledge. The Jin dynasty of northern China has long treated the Mongols with contempt, demanding tribute and playing tribes against each other. In 1211, Genghis Khan invades with an army of perhaps 100,000 warriors. What follows is a masterclass in mobile warfare. The Mongols avoid frontal assaults on fortified positions. Instead, they sweep through the countryside, destroying armies in the field and strangling cities through blockade. When they capture Chinese engineers, they incorporate their expertise, building siege weapons that can break down the mightiest walls. The city of Zhongdu, modern Beijing, falls in 1215 after a prolonged siege. The Mongols plunder it systematically, loading wagons with gold, silk, and treasure. But material wealth is not all they take. They capture artisans, engineers, scholars, and scribes, recognizing that knowledge and skill are as valuable as gold. The Jin dynasty does not fall immediately, but it is crippled. The Mongols have demonstrated a terrifying truth. No wall is high enough, no city strong enough to stop them. By 1218, the Mongol Empire stretches from Korea to Central Asia. Genghis Khan sends a trading caravan to the Khwarazmian Empire, a wealthy Muslim state that controls much of modern-day Iran, Afghanistan, and Central Asia. It is a gesture of commerce and diplomacy. But the governor of the border city of Otrar, suspecting the merchants are spies, has them executed and seizes their goods. Genghis sends ambassadors demanding justice. The Khwarazmian Shah has them killed. Some sources say he has the lead ambassador beheaded and the others' beards burned off. It is a fatal mistake. In 1219, Genghis Khan assembles perhaps 150,000 to 200,000 warriors and marches west. What follows is one of the most devastating military campaigns in history. The great city of Bukhara falls in 1220. According to one account, Genghis Khan enters the main mosque, climbs the pulpit, and declares to the assembled population, "I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you." Samarkand, one of the jewels of Central Asia, surrenders but is still pillaged. The Khwarazmian Shah flees, dying of exhaustion and disease on an island in the Caspian Sea. His son, Jalal ad-Din, fights bravely, but is eventually driven into exile. The once mighty Khwarazmian Empire is utterly destroyed. Cities are razed, populations massacred or enslaved, and irrigation systems deliberately destroyed. Some estimates suggest millions die. The Mongols have sent a message to the world: resist and face annihilation. The scale of Mongol violence has been debated by historians for centuries. Medieval sources often exaggerate numbers, but the pattern is clear. The Mongols used terror as a deliberate, strategic tool. Cities that surrendered immediately were often spared and required only to provide tribute, supplies, and soldiers. But cities that resisted faced total destruction. The Mongols would massacre populations, pile skulls into pyramids, and leave ruins as warnings. This was not mindless barbarism, it was calculated. Each destroyed city made the next one more likely to surrender. In an age without rapid communication, the Mongols understood that reputation was a weapon. Refugees and merchants spread tales of Mongol ferocity, softening up targets before the Mongols even arrived. By 1226, Genghis Khan is in his 60s. ancient by the standards of his age. He has conquered an empire, but his work is not complete. The Western Sire, his first major conquest, has grown defiant again, refusing to send troops for his campaigns. Genghis mounts one final campaign, but his body is failing. According to various accounts, he falls from his horse during a hunt, or falls ill, or is wounded in battle. The specifics are lost to history. In August 1227, in Western Siar territory, Genghis Khan dies. His final orders are brutal. The Western Siar royal family is to be exterminated, and the kingdom destroyed so thoroughly that it will serve as a warning for all time. His body is returned to Mongolia. The funeral procession kills everyone it encounters, ensuring no one can reveal where he is buried. To this day, despite centuries of searching, Genghis Khan's tomb has never been found. Genghis Khan leaves behind more than an empire. He leaves a system. Before his death, he divides his territories among his 4 sons by his principal wife, Berta. Yochi receives the western steppe lands. Chagatai gets Central Asia. Ugadai inherits the heartland and the title of Great Khan. Tolui, the youngest, receives the traditional Mongolian homeland. Ugadai, the 3rd son, is chosen as Great Khan in 1229. He is not the greatest warrior among Genghis's sons, but he is competent, diplomatic, and capable of maintaining unity among the ambitious Mongol princes. In the early 1230s, the Mongols turned their attention to Europe. Leading the campaign is Batu Khan, grandson of Genghis through Yochi, along with the brilliant General Subutai, one of Genghis Khan's greatest commanders. In 1237, the Mongol armies cross the Volga River into Rus, the collection of principalities that would eventually become Russia and Ukraine. The cities of Vladimir, Suzdal, and Moscow fall in rapid succession. In 1240, Kiev, the greatest city of Rus, is stormed and destroyed. The Mongols continue west. In 1241, they win decisive battles at Legnica in Poland and Mohi in Hungary, crushing the largest armies Europe can field. Mongol scouts reach the outskirts of Vienna. Europe holds its breath, waiting for the final blow. And then, inexplicably, the Mongols withdraw. News has arrived that Great Khan Ugadai has died. According to Mongol custom, all princes must return to Mongolia to elect a new Great Khan. Europe has been saved not by its armies, but by a death thousands of miles away. After years of internal squabbling, Möngke Khan, grandson of Genghis through Tolui, is elected Great Khan in 1251. He is competent, ruthless, and ambitious. Under his reign, the Mongol conquests reach their zenith. Möngke coordinates campaigns on multiple fronts. His brother Kublai is sent to complete the conquest of China. His other brother, Hulagu, is dispatched to conquer the Middle East. For 5 centuries, Baghdad has been the jewel of the Islamic world, a center of learning, culture, and wealth. The Abbasid Caliphate, though much diminished from its height, still commands symbolic authority throughout the Muslim world. In 1257, Hulagu Khan arrives with a massive army, perhaps 150,000 strong, including contingents from throughout the Mongol Empire. The Caliph al-Mustasim, sheltered behind Baghdad's walls, fatally underestimates the threat. The siege begins in January 1258. Mongol engineers breach the walls. On February 10th, the city falls. What follows is a catastrophe. The Mongols sack Baghdad for a week. The caliph is executed, according to legend, rolled in a carpet and trampled by horses to avoid spilling royal blood. Libraries are burned, their books thrown into the Tigris, until the river runs black with ink. Scholars, poets, and scientists are killed by the thousands. The House of Wisdom, repository of centuries of human knowledge, is destroyed. Some historians argue that the destruction of Baghdad represents one of the greatest losses of knowledge in human history, setting back Islamic civilization for centuries. Hulagu continues west, taking Aleppo and Damascus. The Mongol Empire now stretches from the Pacific Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea. But the Mongols finally meet their match. In Egypt, the Mamluk Sultanate, ruled by slave soldiers who have seized power, prepares to resist. At Ain Jalut in Palestine, in September 1260, a Mongol army of perhaps 20,000 under General Kitbuka faces a Mamluk force under Sultan Qutuz and General Baybars. The Mamluks feign retreat, luring the Mongols into a trap, then surround and destroy them. Kitbuka is killed. It is the first time a major Mongol army has been decisively defeated in open battle. The Mongols retreat from Syria and never return. The limits of Mongol expansion have been reached. The unity Genghis Khan forged begins to crack. When Möngke Khan dies in 1259, a succession crisis erupts. His brothers Kublai and Orik Boka both claim the title of Great Khan, leading to a civil war. Kublai eventually prevails, but the empire has effectively split. The Golden Horde in Russia, the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, the Ilkhanate in Persia, and Kublai's own domain in China begin operating as independent entities, often at odds with each other. Kublai Khan completes the conquest of China, destroying the southern Song dynasty by 1279. For the first time in history, all of China is under foreign rule. Kublai establishes the Yuan dynasty, making himself not just a Mongol Khan, but a Chinese emperor. Kublai builds a new capital at Khanbalik, modern Beijing, and a summer capital at Xanadu. He adopts Chinese administrative practices while maintaining Mongol military supremacy. It is a delicate balancing act. Under Kublai, China experiences a cultural renaissance. The Silk Road is safer than ever before, enabling unprecedented trade and cultural exchange. It is during this period that Marco Polo, the Venetian merchant, travels to China and allegedly serves in Kublai's court for years. But Kublai's ambitions exceed his grasp. He launches two massive invasions of Japan in 1274 and 1281. Both are destroyed by typhoons, the kamikaze, or divine wind, which the Japanese interpret as divine protection. Invasions of Southeast Asia fare poorly as well. Despite its violence, the Mongol Empire creates something unprecedented, the Pax Mongolica, or Mongol peace. For roughly a century, from the mid-12th century to the mid-13th century, the Silk Road is safer than it has ever been. Ideas, technologies, and goods flow freely from east to west and back again. Chinese printing techniques reach Europe. Islamic astronomy influences Chinese science. Persian art blends with Chinese motifs. European merchants trade in Chinese ports. The Mongols establish the Yam, a sophisticated postal system with relay stations every 25 to 30 miles. Messages can travel across Asia in weeks rather than months. Merchants carrying a Mongol passport can travel from Hungary to Korea with relative safety. The Mongols practice a remarkable religious tolerance. Genghis Khan and his early successors follow shamanism, but welcome Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and others. In Mongol courts, theological debates between monks and imams are common entertainment. Of course, this peace is enforced by ruthless violence. Those who threaten trade or defy Mongol authority face swift annihilation. But within the system, the Mongol Empire enables an unprecedented level of global connection. No empire lasts forever. By the early 1300s, the Mongol Empire is fragmenting. The four major Khanates, the Yuan dynasty in China, the Golden Horde in Russia, the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, and the Ilkhanate in Persia, are effectively independent, often warring with each other. The Mongols face a paradox. They are too few to rule their vast territories through force alone, yet assimilation threatens their identity. In Persia, the Ilkhans convert to Islam and adopt Persian culture. In China, the Yuan dynasty becomes increasingly Chinese. In Russia, the Golden Horde Mongols intermarry with Turkic peoples. The very trade networks the Mongols created become vectors for disaster. In the 1330s, plague erupts in Central Asia. The disease spreads along Mongol trade routes, carried by fleas on rats in merchant caravans, reaching China, the Middle East, and Europe. The Black Death kills between 1/3 and 1/2 of Europe's population. China's population plummets from perhaps 120 million to 65 million. The Middle East is devastated. The Pax Mongolica, which enabled such close contact between East and West, has inadvertently spread one of history's deadliest pandemics. The plague weakens the Mongol Khanates. Populations decline, trade collapses, tax revenues plummet, and armies shrink. The empire that conquered the world is brought low by an enemy it cannot fight with bows and horses. In China, resentment against Mongol rule has been building for decades. The Yuan dynasty discriminates against ethnic Chinese, reserving the best positions for Mongols and Central Asians. Chinese peasants are heavily taxed to fund military campaigns and lavish court expenditures. In the 1350s, a series of rebellions erupts, collectively known as the Red Turban Rebellion. Among the rebel leaders is a former Buddhist monk and peasant named Zhu Yuanzhang. Zhu proves to be a brilliant military strategist. He unites rival rebel factions, defeats Mongol armies, and in 1368 captures Khanbalik. The last Yuan emperor, Togun Timur, flees back to Mongolia. Zhu establishes the Ming dynasty, proclaiming himself the Hongwu emperor. Chinese rule has been restored. The Yuan dynasty's century of rule is over. The other Mongol successor states gradually decline. The Ilkhanate in Persia disintegrates into rival factions by 1335. The Chagatai Khanate splits into eastern and western halves, both weakening over time. The Golden Horde fragments into smaller Khanates, the Khanate of Crimea, the Kazan Khanate, the Astrakhan Khanate. They continue to influence Russia for centuries, but they are shadows of the once mighty Mongol Empire. In Mongolia itself, the Mongols return to their steppe homeland, once again splitting into rival tribes. The dream of universal empire fades into legend. But the story of Mongol conquest has one final chapter. In the late 1300s, a Turco-Mongol warrior named Timur, known in the West as Tamerlane or Timur the Lame, rises to power in Central Asia. Timur claims descent from Genghis Khan through marriage and consciously models himself on the great conqueror. From 1370 to 1405, he wages campaigns of staggering brutality, conquering Persia, Iraq, Syria, the Caucasus, and parts of India and Russia. His methods echo the Mongols at their worst. In Delhi, he massacres perhaps 100,000 people. In Isfahan, he builds towers from 70,000 human skulls. He is, if anything, more ruthless than Genghis Khan himself. In 1405, Timur launches an invasion of China, intending to restore Mongol rule. But he dies of illness in the winter, his army still hundreds of miles from the Chinese border. With his death, the last great Mongol-style conquest ends. Timur's empire fragments after his death, but his legacy lives on. His descendants, the Timurids, rule parts of Central Asia and Persia for another century. One of them, Babur, will eventually found the Mughal Empire in India, carrying Mongol lineage into the early modern era. In 2003, genetic researchers made a startling discovery. Approximately 16 million men living today, roughly 0.5% of the world's male population, carry nearly identical Y chromosomes, suggesting they share a common ancestor who lived around 1,000 years ago in Mongolia. The distribution of this genetic lineage matches the extent of the Mongol Empire almost exactly. While we cannot prove this ancestor was Genghis Khan himself, the evidence strongly suggests that either he or his close male relatives fathered an extraordinary number of children. Historical records support this. Genghis Khan had numerous wives and concubines, and his sons and grandsons did the same. Mongol nobles often took hundreds of wives. The genetic legacy of the Mongol conquests quite literally flows in the veins of millions today. The Mongol Empire's impact on world history is profound and complex. Yes, their conquests killed millions and destroyed irreplaceable centers of learning. But they also connected the world in ways it had never been connected before. Gunpowder, developed in China, spread to the Middle East and Europe along Mongol trade routes, revolutionizing warfare. The printing press, inspired in part by contact with Chinese block printing, would transform Europe. Paper money, sophisticated postal systems, and international law codes all spread or developed under Mongol influence. European maps expanded dramatically in the 13th and 14th centuries as knowledge from Mongol domains flowed west. The world was, quite literally, growing larger in the European imagination. Mongol words entered languages across Eurasia. Political systems were transformed. Russia's autocratic tendencies owe much to centuries of Mongol influence. Central Asian, Persian, and Chinese culture all bear Mongol fingerprints. How should we judge the Mongol Empire? This question has vexed historians for centuries. The destruction was real and immense. Cities that resisted were annihilated. Populations were massacred. Irrigation systems in Central Asia were destroyed, turning fertile regions into desert, damage visible even today. The conquest of Baghdad dealt Islamic civilization a blow from which some argue it never fully recovered. Yet the Mongol Empire also fostered unprecedented global connection. It created a common legal framework across a sixth of the world's land surface. It enabled the transfer of ideas, technologies, and cultures on a scale that wouldn't be matched until the modern era of globalization. Some scholars emphasize the Mongols' adaptive intelligence, their willingness to incorporate foreign knowledge and talent. Others stress their brutality and the civilizations they destroyed. The truth, as always, is complex. Modern Mongolia is a landlocked nation of just over 3 million people, sandwiched between Russia and China. It is one of the least densely populated countries on Earth. Yet the memory of empire remains powerful. Genghis Khan's face appears on Mongolian currency, in monuments, and in the names of hotels, vodka brands, and even Ulaanbaatar's international airport. He is a source of fierce national pride. Many Mongolians still follow semi-nomadic lifestyles, herding livestock across the steppes as their ancestors did. The connection to the past remains tangible in a way that's rare in our modern world. Tourists visit Karakoram, the ancient Mongol capital, though little remains of its former glory. They trek across the steppes where Genghis Khan once rode. They search, still, for his hidden tomb. The Mongol Empire rose from the steppes in a single generation and conquered half the known world. It fell, as all empires do, torn apart by internal divisions, assimilation, disease, and the resistance of subject peoples. Its existence as a unified entity was brief, less than a century from Genghis Khan's unification in 1206 to the de facto independence of the Khanates by the early 1300s. As a collection of successor states, it persisted for another 2 centuries, finally ending when the last remnants were absorbed by Russia and China in the 16th and 17th centuries. But its impact reverberates through history. The world the Mongols created, interconnected, cosmopolitan, and aware of its own vastness, laid foundations for the global civilization we inhabit today. Genghis Khan set out to conquer the world. In many ways, he succeeded. But perhaps his greatest conquest was not of territory, but of human imagination, proving that a tribe of horsemen from the edge of nowhere could reshape the entire world. The winds still blow across the Mongolian steppes, the grass still grows, and somewhere in a hidden grave that has kept its secret for 800 years, the bones of the greatest conqueror in history rest in the land of his birth.